Hello, personal productivity enthusiasts and community. Welcome to Anything But Idle, the Productivity News Podcast. I'm Ray Sidney-Smith,
And I'm Augusto Pinaud.
and we're your hosts for Anything But Idle. This is episode 17, and we're recording this on August 6th, 2020. Each week, we cover the productivity news headlines of the week, so you know what's going on in the current research, tools, services, products, and more in the world of personal productivity. This week, we are going to be covering a little bit about the Samsung Unpacked event, and we will get to that in our featured story of the week. But first, let's get into our headlines. Augusto, what's our first headline of the week?
LastPass will now add a feature that will warn you when your passwords show up on the dark web. OnePass is really trying to help people, make passwords secure. It's a fantastic application, and now this feature, I think it's something fantastic for people.
Yeah, so this is a part of their paid program. So if you are all not interested in paying LastPass to do this, then you could always sign up with Firefox Monitor. So if you go to monitor.firefox.com, you can actually sign up for this service for free. But it's good to see LastPass adding this to their premium services as a part of their suite. I'm a LastPass user and I love it. But I'm not going to pay them to do something that I can get for free from Firefox. And all you need is a Firefox account. Okay, next up, Google is bringing Windows apps to Chromebooks. This is a little bit of a misguided title for an article coming out of The Verge and other news sources, because what they're really doing is they're bringing Windows applications through Parallels on Chromebook enterprise devices. So if you are an enterprise IT administrator, then you will soon be able to bring Chromebook enterprise devices onto the network and run Parallels desktop on them and boot a full copy, a licensed copy of Windows in the environment. That will allow you to be able to run Chrome OS and Android apps side by side with your Parallels instance of Windows, which is phenomenal and cool. And I don't know if this is going to come to everyday Chromebooks, but is a great addition to the arsenal for enterprise.
Yes, I think that will be really really powerful. Even if it only comes to certain node Chromebooks and we need to upgrade to that, I think that will be a really really powerful feature.
All right, next up, we have YouTube is ending their community captions feature. So they are not shutting down closed captioning, but they are cutting down the function for community members to submit closed captions. For example, if I'm uploading community captions for English for someone who is putting out a YouTube video in Spanish so that I can read their Spanish spoken video in English, that's the function that's being turned off. So it was actually, ripe for abuse, and people were, misusing that function. YouTube has just basically decided to get rid of it altogether. So the automated or the auto-generated closed captions is all that's really going to be left in the system, and they haven't really talked about changing in any way. I know that the deaf community is pretty upset about this, and they have various petitions that are out there trying to get YouTube to reverse their decision. And so, unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's going to change YouTube's decision, but they are ending the community captions feature.
Inc. has a great article about 9 policies or 9 great tips that Google is using today. And it was really a great article, but especially the beginning where it says, okay, the first thing so we measure is well being, performance, connectiveness, and then productivity. And I think it's really, really important as we are all coming to work from home and all this that we understand that this need to change and the importance that well-being has for people into this COVID-19 and especially working from home. And especially as this is coming to be a lot longer. I don't think anybody could envision how long this is going to be, and we don't still don't know how long it's going to be. So well-being, put it first, I think is something really, really important. The rest of the article is fantastic, but that point, put it as the first thing to measure, I think it's key.
I think that it's going to be important for us all to look at our remote work policies. That is, as we start to have to develop them, because most companies don't have them. And this is just a great 9 suggestions for ones that you can use from a company that knows remote work well, because they're putting all of their 100,000 employees through the mechanism of having to go through these various forms of distributed work right now. So good on Google for putting this out there, and hopefully more companies use some of these pieces, especially as you talked about the well-being functions. Continuing on in our Google news, Google has launched Nearby Share, and in essence, what it is if you know Apple's AirDrop, it is that feature for the Android platform. Now, of course, Android had Android Beam and other functions like bump and otherwise over the years. None of them really stuck, and this one is now the last iteration or the most current iteration of that, and it will be the hopefully useful tool that we want it to work for. And this will actually not only be on Android devices, but it will also extend to Chrome OS. So your Chromebooks will also be able to use this tool as well. So this is going to be really powerful. Your ability to go ahead and see an individual and say, oh, I want to share this file with you, or you have multiple devices in front of you and you want to say, oh, I want to move this file to this device from my phone or from my tablet quickly and easily. You can now do that Android to Android without much of an issue. So very, very cool. It actually also picks the fastest form of transfer for the system, and chooses that method for being able to transfer the data.
Well, Google, the EU launched a full-scale probe about what Google is doing after with data after the Fitbit takeover, and even that they said that they are not recently in the last month using that data for ad targeting. The EU is not completely sure about that, so they are really open and check what is happening with that data and Google and what they are doing with the data.
Google announced that they were entering a deal to purchase Fitbit. They have not yet purchased it, and so in essence, they may be blocked from doing so if the EU kind of steps down on them and says you can't. That'll be unfortunate. Okay, and that kind of brings us to the close of the Google portion of our news today, and onto some other tools that have gotten some updates. There is a tool out there called Teamwork. If you haven't heard of it before, it is akin to, say, Monday.com and maybe the Freshworks suite a little bit, but it's basically a productivity suite that allows you to do project management and chat and CRM and help desk and a couple of other, intermediary collaboration pieces built into one. And so Teamwork put out a new release. Their July 20 roundup was that they added template gallery to their system. So now you can have page templates within the system. So if you're creating really quick FAQs or you wanted to create a project planning piece, the new spaces function gives you a template gallery. You can also now publicly share pages. You can export PDFs, and you can also do reactions like little tiny emoji to react to posts inside of the Teamwork spaces. There's also a timeline widget, so you can see a project timeline akin to a Gantt chart like that. And they also did talk about webhooks, adding webhooks so that you can set up integrations with your Teamwork spaces by subscribing to certain events within the platform, so that can trigger specific actions. So good development for them, and we'll be paying attention to what Teamwork is doing in future episodes. Okay, so Facile Things has also announced their July 2020 updates, and just to cover those in brief, Facile Things is a software that brings the GTD philosophy to a task and project management interface. And so it's a premium software. And Francisco Says is the developer behind it, and put out an article just outlining that there's a new structure that they're calling perspectives. And so there's a new perspective section, which will have a whole new design, and that structure will allow you to navigate, I'm coding here, navigate between all the elements and make better follow-up of each level, end quote. You'll also have the ability to take projects and actions and kind of open them up, to see a detailed breakdown for each goal and area of focus and accountability. And then you'll also have the ability to identify which areas of focus and accountability are those for personal or professional. And so you can filter based on those. And while it's not GTD core, it gives Facile Things users a place to be able to create some separation between private, personal stuff and professional workplace stuff. So, good new updates to the Facile Things experience.
And next, we have Scyther.org talking about a study that examines great. A study that's talking about this stay-at-home worker productivity potential and how all the things that telecommuting and on economic terms, it's really affecting everywhere. There is a research team from Portugal who is trying to explore what is the potential of this telecommuting in the terms of productivity, of quality of line, of life gains, cost savings for workers as well as employees. It's a really interesting what they have or what they're trying to do with the University of Institute of Lisbon and seeing how this level of telecommuting across many sectors are really not necessarily creating a terrible effect. And some of the things are good to see.
Yes, so this is in the InterScience online journal that this was published, and they talked about this telecommuting potential analysis. And so there's an underlying paper that you can access to get kind of the full thing. But in just the abstract, it does just give a good general positive for what they're calling telecommuting, but really what we're calling remote work or working virtually today. Okay, next up is Nirvana has also put out their updates. It seems like all the various applications are really ramping up and doing more to get themselves ready for remote work. And so, July 2020 updates for their Nirvana application. Again, another GTD inspired application. They've enhanced their keyboard navigation to give people more control over moving around the interface using their keyboard on the desktop. And as well as I guess on the iPad using a connected keyboard. They also give you the ability to use functions to get uh, so it says use your browser's back button to navigate to the previous list you were just looking at. So in essence, I'm guessing if you're in the browser, they're noting that you're able to use the back and forward button in your browser to navigate from past lists and next lists by using back and forward. You can also copy the URL to a specific list or project, and those URLs are now permalinks to those lists or projects, which is really great. I've been using that in Remember the Milk for many years myself. And they also added dark mode. You can use what are called tiny font. Oh, it says no more tiny fonts. So they've solved seemingly a problem with tiny fonts. For all of you who are using maybe Nirvana that know that what that is, feel free to comment and let me know what tiny fonts are. I'm guessing that the fonts were shrinking on some level to non-existence. They've added some underlying code libraries and updated some underlying code libraries to their latest versions, but otherwise they'll be working in August on native macOS and Windows apps. So I'm really interested to see Nirvana come to macOS and Windows on the desktop platforms as real applications out from their beta state that they've been in for quite some time.
Next up is an article from Laura Vanderkam. The article is titled Working from Home Pose Serious Dangers from Employers and Employees Alike. And it was interesting to read this article because it really I was not expecting this article from this person and really showing how all data. I don't think quoting date for mid March is not a good poll. Nobody was expecting this, and there was really a problem of this at the end of March and April. But we have seen the more current polls coming up in June and July. And what we have seen, that fear that she's referring to is a fear that people had for traditionally for remote work, but that most companies have been seeing exactly the opposite. The burnout is an issue. Yes, burnout is an issue. There is people who are seeing burnout, no question about it. But also a lot of people is looking and getting a lot more benefits than the risk of burnout, and a lot of organizations are getting really really good into helping their people into this. So I don't know, I it was a tough article for me.
I have to say I didn't like the article at all. I felt like it was a weird melange of arguments against something that the author believes should be remote work, because she hasn't argued against remote work. She's arguing that there's a group of people who fear their employers, and there's nothing better for me than to see employers, business owners, managers become better business owners and managers. This is not an ideal circumstance, no question about it. But to say that people are fearful about working from home because their employers and managers are inadequate is not a reason for us not to do that. Now, she just put out a new book, The New Corner Office: How the Most Successful People Work from Home. And so she is clearly an advocate for working from home, I believe. So it's just like it was a weird article. I didn't understand her argument. It seemed hasty, and it seemed like she was trying to push her book, so she put an article in Fortune, and it just landed with a thud for me. I mean, it just landed on in this weird way to me. It just didn't seem right. It didn't seem worded correctly. It didn't seem like she made a very cogent argument against or for anything. So, even when I disagree with authors on premises, I'll disagree with them when they've made a good argument, and it's still a good argument. Here, I just didn't see it. With that, let's hear a word from our sponsor this week, Zarvana, which you can find at zarvana.com, and we'll be back with you after the break.
As a young analyst at a leading strategy and management consulting firm, I experienced what ambitious professionals experience every week. I had a strong desire to get promoted as quickly as I could, and I wanted to take on exciting side projects. And I wanted to do all of that while spending less time at work so my life outside of work wasn't limited to exhaustion and recovery. My observations of my coworkers told me this wasn't possible, but I knew there had to be a way. I began to research and experiment, and in 2 to 3 months I had reduced the hours I was working by over 15%, while placing myself on the path to a faster than average promotion. My success led to the creation of Zarvana, a tool designed to give you the edge at work and in life. It combines a diagnostic, abbreviated courses, and a habit tracker into a single application to enable you to get the most out of your time in just minutes per week. You can start by taking the Time Finder diagnostic to find out how many of our 150 time-saving behaviors you're currently doing.
And we're back. What is our next headline, Augusto?
Well, Microsoft will shut down Cortana for iOS and Android apps on 2021. They tried to make it, and well, it is not going to be anymore. They are saying early 2021. There has not been yet any um, official date for them, but it's coming out. So what they are doing that are I don't know, especially after they are bringing some of that to Cortana to still devices on 2021. So it is something that I'm curious to see what happened.
I think Cortana is going to make its way into enterprise, and it's going to be caked into other applications. It's just going to be pulled out of the consumer market, and that's an unfortunate piece. Moving right along, Michael Hyatt, who many of you know from his work, his blog and his podcast, as well as his books on productivity, he also has a planner that's called the Full Focus Planner, and Full Focus Planner now has a students and kids edition versions for both of them, and they are designed for kids in the sense that they are smaller, they're fun colors, and they are also giving kids an easy way to do a weekly preview. It facilitates their ability to be able to plan out their week and so on and so forth. And of course, the students version is a little bit more sophisticated, so that students are able to look at their week, look at their subjects, and identify what they need to get forward movement on their particular goals. And so there's an ideal week and a monthly calendar and some really interesting things there for them. There is a single one-time purchase, but you can also buy it on a quarterly basis. But right now, I'm not sure when the deal ends, but there's currently a 10% off discount, and you use the code KIDS STUDENTS, so KIDS STUDENTS, at checkout, and it will take I think that 10% off for kids and students versions of those products. So just good to know that if you do have children and you're looking to give them a little bit of a productivity boost, especially while they're studying from home, and you can help them in that way, the Full Focus Planner is available. So give it a look.
And our next one is a news from Todoist. And Todoist is partnering with Verizon to support students and teachers. So they are working into getting Todoist in the hands of more people. So eligible Verizon customers will benefit from Todoist premium app if for this school year. So they are going to get a $25 off if you get the phones, and then you are going to get the Todoist for free and all that. That way, hopefully, what I'm hoping it is Verizon is trying to understand that with all this working from home, getting more devices is going to be a reality for many families.
Right. So in addition to Todoist for free for 12 months, they're also giving Disney Plus, Apple Music, and with some of their selected plans. So good on them for supporting students and teachers, and bringing a productivity app like Todoist to the masses is just really phenomenal for them to kind of give a nod to Todoist in that way. Next up is a tool for those of us who are working remotely and working on the Mac OS platform, Rogue Amoeba, which produces a whole bunch of great software. So if you've not heard of Rogue Amoeba, go to rogueamoeba.com and you're welcome. But one of the tools that they've put out recently is called SoundSource, and SoundSource 5 is the latest iteration of their tool. And what it does is what it sounds like. It takes the sources that go as inputs and outputs on your device, and you can control them very granularly. So you can say, okay, I want my output to be my AirPods, and I want my input to be my built-in microphone, and you can make those selections, and then you can fine tune the volume of those pieces, and you can fine tune the volume. Say that whenever you're in Zoom is always a little bit soft. You can actually boost that up, and say that whenever you're listening to Spotify, you really want Spotify to play 20% of normal volume while you're in a Zoom meeting. You can do that also. It's just very, very power of giving you that granular power to be able to do that. And you can create these profiles and say, okay, I could just turn this on, which is like, Monday's workday. And then it just creates the profile of all of the sound settings that you want for your applications on Monday. Very, very powerful tool. It's just great. And everything that Rogue Amoeba does is phenomenal. So go check it out.
Our next news is Virginia becomes the first U.S. state to to bring COVID-19 tracking app using the Apple and Google API. And well, as we've seen, all this COVID-19 thing is still present, and I think it's a good thing from Virginia to being the first one and being ahead and have now, really an ability to track all this.
Right. So these are secure mechanisms for people to be able to do COVID-19 contact tracing should someone test positive. And Apple and Google have done a really phenomenal job of being able to both provide information transparently to the user about when someone does test positive after coming into contact with them, but also on the other side of protecting privacy and security. And so I I fear that not many people are going to install this. Myself, there is one that's local in my area that I downloaded and installed, and unfortunately, there's only two people uh, that both live in my household who have installed that application because it literally only shows that I've come into contact with one other person every week. So the user adoption rate of these applications is actually what makes their efficacy possible. And so people need to trust the technology and install the applications. And I just don't know how many people are going to do that. So it's kind of one of those things where it may be dead in the water because people don't trust it and they won't install it. But I suggest that if you're in Virginia, that you follow the Virginia Department of Health's guidance and install the COVID Wise app and see how it works. So all you can do is hope that people actually use it. Okay, next up.
Apple celebrates the 10th anniversary of the Apple Store, and they include what is called an Easter egg. So if you type 10 years, you will get a 10 on a balloon. Sadly, they didn't, as other things, they had let you play multiple times. This one, when you play it once, it disappears. So there is a link in there where you can see Mac Rumors replaying the video. But basically, if you have not done it in your app, you can type 10 years and you are going to get a balloons to celebrate that.
That's all kinds of fun. They should have made it like a Google Duo and made it available to everybody to keep playing with. Apple has put out a press release announcing their 27-inch iMac, and it will, of course, get some upgrades both to its performance in terms of CPU. The solid state drive is going to be more powerful, and they're going to be bringing the Retina 5K display along with better camera, better speakers, and better microphones to the device. So they announced the 21.5-inch iMac and iMac Pro. So folks can start ordering them immediately, and those will come with Mac OS Catalina, and Big Sur will then be upgraded at no cost once Apple releases Mac OS Big Sur. They will come as free updates to the iMac and iMac Pros, both in the 21.5-inch as well as the 27-inch versions. So they look like they're starting in the US at about $1799 for the 27-inch iMacs and $1,099 and $49.99 for the iMac and iMac Pro 21.5-inch versions, respectively, both in US dollars.
Our next news is what it seems to be an unpatchable exploit. It's found on the Apple Enclave chip, on the secure Enclave chip. And what that means is that if it's actually unpatchable, what it's going to mean is that authorities will be able to crack your phone and open your phone. And it applies to HomePod and Apple Watch 1 and iPad Pros, iPad Minis, as well as iPhone 5S and later. So be aware that if it's something that is happening, I haven't read a lot more news about it, but it is something that, well, it it means that probably, if not the next version, but the version after that will come with a new version of that enclave.
Okay, our last story in the news.
One of my favorite apps, Day One, is a journal. It's a quote a journal app, but it's really a lot more than that. It's a really an incredible application, and they just came with the version 5, and it made it even better. They add now a today. They add, so you can look at what things happen in this day. So if you are the people who take pictures and upload the pictures in there, you can see the pictures later. Uh, you can now sign in with Apple, and they really make it, you can tap now into a list of places, name locations, and that you can export them in PDF. They really got their app and make it even better. It's been, I don't know how, I think I've been journaling there since version 1. So I have a lot of days in there. So watching the timeline and watching that today was really interesting to see things that I journal maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago and see, where I was. That has been really, really fun to see. So it is a fantastic update. And if you use Day One or are looking for a good journal application on iOS and Mac, this is without a doubt, in my opinion, the best one.
Fantastic. And so with that, That brings us to the close of our headlines for the week and onward to our Science of Productivity segment with Matt Plummer of Zarvana.
The Science of Productivity segment brings you scientific insights you can trust into how to accomplish your goals faster. In this week's segment, I want to share research that reveals how you should finish an email if you want people to respond. The way you close an email may seem trivial. After all, do people even read and pay attention to whether you end an email with regards or best or some other trite remark? Research from email application Boomerang into 350,000 email threads shows that they do, in fact, read email closings. And not only that, but the closing significantly affects how likely they are to respond. Emails in Boomerang's research had an average response rate of about 48%, or just under half. However, the most effective closing that appeared at least 1,000 times had an average response rate of nearly 66%. This means that signing your name with the most effective closing increases the likelihood you'll get a response by almost 40%. What are the most popular closings in this research and which is most effective? The most popular closings in order are thanks, regards, cheers, best regards, thanks in advance, thank you, best, and kind regards. The closing that got the most responses was thanks in advance. But thanks in advance wasn't the only winner. It turns out that the closings with a thankful response, so those were thanks in advance, thank you, and thanks, had an average response rate of 62%. The key takeaway is if you want more people to respond to your email, thank them. Research from Wharton's Adam Grant and UNC's Francesco Gino from 2010 supports this conclusion, finding that people were twice as likely to respond to emails that contained expressions of gratitude. When they dug deeper, they found that thankful closings had this effect because expressions of gratitude make the recipient feel valued, which leads them to act in more pro-social ways. If you want to get the full list of closing rankings from Boomerang, check out the links in the description of this episode. Thanks in advance.
So thank you, Matt. That was Matt Plummer of Zarvana for the Science of Productivity segment. And that brings us now to our new tools of the week. Augusto and I come across a bunch of personal development, time, task, project management, and productivity collaboration tools and services every week. Some we use, some just look cool. And so in this segment, New Tools of the Week, we each bring you a tool we think you might like. And so first up is my tool of the week. I'm going to bring you Mailbrew. Mailbrew is your ability to be able to bundle your newsletters together in a single digest. Now, this is a premium tool, so it's not free, but what it does is it gives you a 14-day free trial, and in essence, what you can do is it takes all of your newsletters and it just kind of puts it into this really nice feed. So you can just look at all of it together. I think I talked to you all about Stoop a few episodes ago and how Stoop Inbox works. This is a much cleaner interface. It's got a full application. They just have so far got it right. There are some competitors out there like Unroll.me that are doing it for free, but you always, and I am always concerned about if the service is free, then what is the product, right? Is it my data? What are they selling about me to others? Just all of those kinds of things. So for sustainability, I like the idea of having a service that, I'm paying them to keep my private data private, and it allows the developers to stay maintaining the developers in terms of developing great software. So single email, no overload because it's just a single digest, and you don't miss things from people that you care about getting. So you can go ahead and just have that all set up running in the background. So that's Mailbrew. Hopefully you like it. Augusto, what's your tool of the week?
My tool's an app tool. It's called Concept, and it just came into. It's a sketching app, especially if you do, you know, mid to high level sketch. You're a designer, you're an architect. It has a couple of things that I have not seen before on the iOS, and is that you can select colors based on Pantones, and that make it really cool. Use pair that with the Apple Pencil, and you can really make incredible things. I even have client of mine who is a designer. So when I saw it initially, I sent it to him, and he really loved it because now he can show in the client using their real colors. It's not, oh well, this will look on your proper blue when we provide you the final one, but he can now sketch into the right tone of their client. So if you use colors and Pantones and all that for sketching, check the app because it is really incredible.
Those are our new tools of the week. If you test them out, let us know what you like about them, and we'll go from there. But otherwise, let's hop into our featured story of the week. At last year's Samsung Galaxy Unpacked event, Samsung and Microsoft announced a partnership in which they would bring Android and Windows together to work on the Samsung platform as well as Windows 10 platform seamlessly. And it's one of those things where you hear people talk about these things and are like, okay, yeah, it's all lip service and they're excited to tell us just to make us buy products. But then this year's Samsung Unpacked event, which Augusto and I talked about in the last episode, so go check that out if you did not see our commentary about the Samsung Unpacked event, but they have really brought the ability to work across application platforms to reality. Augusto, what did you see in their demo from the Samsung Unpacked 2020 event?
So I need to say, as I said on the event, I'm an Apple user and I live on a Mac. Okay, or the Mac is the support for my iPad. But I'm going to say that seeing the Galaxy Note 20 play that simpatico with the Windows 10 machine. Being able to connect and use on your Windows machine all those Android things, instead of using that web clunky WhatsApp thing that you can use today, you now using the phone, the app. And at least on the demo, it moved really, really well. And Samsung has been playing with this kind of technology with the DeX for a while. So it was really, really awesome to see them come to the next level. And if you are on a Galaxy, an Android, and in a Windows 10, I think it really is going to change how those two devices will interact with each other.
I just love the notion of being able to be on your Samsung Galaxy Note 20 or Note 20 Ultra, and you see the app drawer from your Android device listing, and you can just pull those apps open and start using Instagram on your Windows 10 PC. I mean, just like, I don't know why well, I know why Instagram and Facebook continue to force everybody to use their phones as opposed to, there's not even an Instagram iPad app. I mean, I don't understand that. That just seems crazy to me. But, Instagram has really enforced a phone only platform, and they have, moved kicking and screaming to allow us to be able to use the desktop for functions and that kind of thing. But now Microsoft and Samsung have really leapfrogged those applications that are mobile only and really brought us some great functionality, and I think it's just going to be phenomenal. I'm really looking forward to this. It really entices me to want to get a Galaxy Note 20 or the Note 20 Ultra so that I can use the DeX platform for this kind of next level productivity where the device is a vessel for me being productive. It is not the only reason I can be productive. I don't want to be locked into any one device, which is why I'm such a big fan of Google, right? I want to be able to pick up any device and see the same data and have the same experience on any of those devices. And today, the Android platform gives me all of that through Google, Google Docs and on the Android platform. And if I pick up my iPad, guess what? It's a vessel for my Google Docs as well. So that experience is just really raised up a bar. And I hope that Google sees this and they bring parity for us to be able to do that with the Android applications on the Google Pixel line as well. So I'm really looking forward to seeing them the heat being placed under Google for their Pixel line of devices to make this come over to Windows as well. So I'm crossing my fingers there, and this is just a really great announcement, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. So again, if you guys out there are using Samsung devices and you get your Galaxy Note 20 or your Note 20 Ultra and start using the Windows 10 application, your phone to make that happen in the Dex platform, let us know when that happens and what your experiences are with them. Did we miss a story this week? If so, check out our contact page at Anything But Idle and let us know. You can also tweet and or DM us on Twitter at Anything But Idle. You can also find us and follow us on social media by finding the links on anythingbutidle.com. It's right there on the homepage. You can find us, follow us, and say hi. If you can, please leave a rating or review in Apple Podcasts or Stitcher, or if your favorite podcast app allows for giving ratings and reviews. That really helps us grow the Anything But Idle audience. So thank you for rating and reviewing, and thank you for listening to Anything But Idle, the Productivity News podcast. Until next time, here's to your productive life. Take care, everybody.